It's time for Zeb at the Ranch with your host Zeb Bell and newsworthy and noteworthy John Ellis. This podcast will always be brutally honest with integrity and honesty and without low-class, no-class cursing that's in vogue today with illiterate politicians. Now, Zeb at the Ranch.
Oh my, am I looking forward to the program today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to our podcast, Zeb at the Ranch. And, of course, you go to zebbell.com, tune us in, tell your neighbors and friends, Aunt Martha and Uncle Fred. And we want to get the numbers way sky high on listeners, and thank you. And if you want to send anything as far as remarks, keep it clean, keep it nice. We'll even take the bad ones. Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch at hotmail.com. And send those to us. And oh, by the way, too, I want to get this out of the way real fast. Our weekly blog is Cow Pies and Coffee Cups. And you can go to zebbell.com. You can give us your address, and we'll make sure you get a copy of Cow Pies and Coffee Cups every week of different subject matters. So thank you very much. Wow. Today, Wednesday, and we're about ready to rock and roll. And we never start anything on this program without having a little bit of humor. And I found these, and by the way, I want to introduce my cohort in crime, and that's John Ellis. Good afternoon, my dear friend. How are you?
Doing good, dang good.
Good. Well, you always are with your technology and your skills, and we're back on the air another day.
There you go.
I love it. I was reading a book, and you'll get a kick out of this, called Disorder in the Courts. And it's things people actually said at various court cases during the trial when they were being examined by lawyers. And this one takes the cake as far as I'm concerned. Picture an attorney standing with one leg up on the stand, looking at the witness and saying, "Now, doctor, isn't it true that when a person dies in his sleep, he doesn't know about it until the next morning?" And the witness looked at the lawyer and said, "Did you actually pass the bar exam?"
That's a good one.
I love those kind of things. John, there's so much going on in the news, and as we speak right now, we're well into a United States government shutdown, of which I'm just going to be blunt in my feelings. You can tell me yours, but the Democrats have brought this on because they're like spoiled little kids that didn't get their way. They didn't get their Snickers candy bar, and they're going to do everything they can as far as being a part of Trump derangement syndrome and a hatred, evidently, for the American public. And they are demanding that they're not going to go back and help pass this budget until they get their way, and also $1.5 trillion of that money going to provide health care for illegal aliens.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you asked the wrong person.
No, I didn't. You're the only one in the room.
Well, here's the thing. The government shutting down is sometimes a good thing, and this is my take on the whole thing, and we didn't talk about this, and I regret that, but one of the problems I have with these political groups is the parties is that in the case of the Republicans, they're trying to be too nice, and this is why I say that. The Senate has imposed on themselves a rule of a 60 majority. I think that's a cop-out. The Constitution does not provide for that. A simple majority in the Senate is all that's required by law to pass anything.
That's right.
This is a self-imposed rule. My thought is, look, if your policies are so great, if they're so wonderful, they're going to do so much good for the country, why are you hamstringing yourself? Change that rule.
Yeah.
I don't call it the nuclear option. I call it the Constitution.
Would you agree with me that in the last 30, 40 years, that you used the word hamstring and hamstrung? I think the party that is in power is really, in the last 4 presidencies, been hamstrung by the opposition, and the party that was elected by the populace of the people in this country for the policies that they wanted to advocate and back. They're being pushed up against the wall, and they're being told, no, we're not going to vote for those. We're going to stop you in your tracks. And that's exactly what's happening to the Trump administration right now.
Yeah, and that's my point. The Republicans are letting this happen to themselves. If your
Absolutely.
policy, and I'm a firm believer in this, if your policies are great, get them implemented. Let people see, oh, this is great. Same with the Democrats. When they're in power, let them have the 51 vote so people can see how crappy their policies are when
That's
they're
right.
implemented.
That's
Let them
right.
go, you know?
But we're at a point now where a lot of people are without any paychecks. And we're in a danger zone, like what happened in Burbank, California, and it's going to happen at other airports across the United States, to where the air traffic controllers are not going up in the tower to help direct the thousands of flights to the ground safely.
Yeah.
We're in a mess.
That's insanity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Two takes on that. One, the air traffic controllers, they may even have it in their contract that they're required by law to continue to work even if there's a furlough or a work reduction or whatever, a government shutdown. But even if they aren't, there's kind of a moral obligation.
Absolutely.
You know, if I were an air traffic controller, I would feel it my duty to go back to work, no matter what my people around me said. I'm not a big union guy. So
maybe what you and I ought to do is pursue during the course of the next 6 days before our next podcast, find a contract.
That's a good idea.
And let's find a contract that says what their stipulations are.
Yep.
And
because they may be perfectly in their right to walk out.
Yeah.
It could be fine and dandy.
To me, it's not common sense.
No, it's not. And it's not common consideration for people.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you have to do hard things or distasteful things because it's the right thing to do.
But the whole concept of a government shutdown, when you think about it, and I'm going to put the onus on both parties, Republican and Democrat.
Yep.
They knew this was coming.
Sure.
Why not get this thing out in front of the public, out in front of their members, out in front of the people that are going to give a majority vote, yay or nay, thumbs up, thumbs down, get it taken care of. That's the problem with politics today.
Yep.
They like their 5 minutes of fame on the 6 o'clock news, look at me, strut around like a banty rooster, and they're not worth a powder to blow them to heck.
Yeah, it's all theater, and that's the solution. If you get back to that simple majority in the Senate, none of this happens.
Absolutely.
Because you're always going to have a majority in the Senate and the House. And if your votes only require a majority, the Democrats want a democracy. That's a democracy, 50 plus 1, 50% plus 1. So let's give it to them.
There's so many issues in the news, along with the government shutdown. And I want to get your opinion on something that it's so appalling, especially today. Everybody in this country is really raising their eyebrows, whether they're my age, which is antiquish, and you've already called me that twice this morning. You said, Zeb, don't sit too long on that shelf. Somebody's going to come by and want to buy you. But all the way down to being teenagers. Yeah. And they're really worried about a lack of civility in this country.
Yeah.
And we've even got a mayor of Chicago, Johnson, that has the combined IQ of a paperclip, saying that the Republicans in the GOP are really pushing for a civil war in this country. John, a civil war. I mean, my goodness, these are words that strike fear in the hearts of a lot of people.
Yeah, I can guarantee you that there may be 1, 2, maybe 3 people in the government that want a civil war, but nobody wants a civil war.
I mean, use the word civil war.
Civil war.
Why would you want to have a North and South, East and West conflagration with dead bodies laying in the ditch banks, etc.? Yeah. Is that really what we're coming to with the chaos that's going on?
Well, I hope not.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, I hope not. I just wish we could realize that we can have differences and we don't have to go to war over those.
But look we talked a week ago about language and words. And by calling somebody a Nazi, or calling someone a fascist, or whatever the case might be, there are those out there hanging from the tree limbs that are going to use those words and say, well, they're Nazis and we can't have them.
Exactly.
Bang, we got to get rid of them.
Yep. The inflammatory words, they've kind of got to stop, I support a person's freedom of speech, but let's use some common sense. First of all, anybody who calls anybody a Nazi is 99.9% wrong.
That's right.
Most of the time.
That's right.
Because they have no idea what it means to be a Nazi. Go look at
history.
Or a fascist. In fact, the tactics of the left and sometimes the right of trying to force people to shut up using force, that is a fascist thing.
Would you agree that maybe the best thing we could give every single American over 21 years of age, or let's go at 18, is a dictionary and learn what the words mean.
Yes, and I'm always thinking, well, do I know what a socialist is?
Yeah.
Do I know what a fascist is? So I get out,
Or a communist or whatever.
I look it up again and go, that definition hasn't changed. At least the old definitions. People change the definitions any time now, because now if I disagree with you, I'm a racist. Doesn't matter what the subject
But
is.
there again, there's another good word that's being thrown around at everybody. I've been called a racist when I have my radio program every day. I just think that the use of these words now has got to stop. And I'm not saying curtail free speech, not at all.
Right.
But when you look at somebody like J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, and you start calling people Nazis, and they've got to be stopped. And the key words in those two phrases, Nazi, stopped, and there's the fringe out there that's going to do that and cause more chaos.
They're the ones that are going to slip the suitcase at the meeting and try to take out Hitler.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Yeah.
No, I'm really concerned about what's going on in this country. And then you've got John. Tell me this. If you were the mayor of Chicago or the mayor of Portland, and we could go to other various cities, and you've got over 100 days of chaos in certain parts of your city, and the citizens of that city that live in that respected area, they can't go out at night. They can't sleep at night. They can't, for their jobs early in the morning, leave their apartments or their homes for fear of what's going on. Wouldn't you say you've got a problem that needs to be cleaned up?
Well, first of all, if I were the mayor of Chicago or these other cities, we would not have these problems, because I believe in the rule of law as long as it doesn't infringe on the rights of the individual. And most laws are pretty fair laws. You can't kill people, you can't take their stuff. And so I wouldn't be in that situation. But if I were in that situation, I would certainly ask for help where I could get it.
But therein, they keep throwing the First Amendment in front of the news cameras and the news microphones. But in the First Amendment, it says, or abridging the freedom of speech or the press, and the right of the people, here's the key word, peaceably to assemble.
Peaceably.
Yeah. And these people are not peaceable.
Yeah. The riots that are happening, where you hear the Democrats and the mainstream media talking about, oh, they're just protesting. No, they're not. They're violent.
Absolutely.
That's not a protest. That's not a peaceable assembly.
So what about the taxpayer? What about me? I want to get up and get a good night's sleep. I want to go to work the next morning. Maybe I'm going to have the day off. And my wife and my family, we're going to go to a baseball or basketball game. Can't sleep. You got to stand by your door all night and protect your home. That's not being a citizen of the United States of America, and you're not being protected.
Right. That's right.
It's got to stop.
Yeah.
So what do? I admire Trump bringing in the National Guard. I admire the fact that we've got to clean up these cities, Chicago, Portland, whatever the case might be. Do you share the same opinion, or how are we going to stop this?
Okay, in my perfect libertarian world, no, I do not support that. Because I don't believe that the federal government should be coming in and taking over states in this operation. But I also live in the real world. And I don't know what other option they have.
That's what I was going to ask you.
If they won't, under their own laws, control this, like I said, if I were a mayor of Chicago, I'd be asking for help. Come and help me.
Yeah, and then when you have edicts that they found with memos and emails, stand down, don't help.
Can you believe that?
I can't, because people are at risk that are trying to do what the law stipulates they should do.
Yeah.
And their lives are in danger.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the ICE agents right now.
Sure.
If they're after the bad guys, whether they're trendy Aragua gang members, whether they're child rapists, whether they're murderers, whether they're bank robbers, and they're illegal aliens, get them out of here.
Yeah, how about that trend? I can't even say their name. The leader that put the hit out on the ICE chief.
$10,000.
$10,000. And he's got the cojones to do it in the country illegally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're in a mess.
Yeah.
We're in, and I don't want to sound like I'm being totally negative this morning or this afternoon, but we're in a crisis and chaos situation that somehow, like Barney Fife used to say on Andy of Mayberry, better be nipped in the bud.
Well, and I am encouraged, and I'm sad to say it. It's from the assassination of Charlie Kirk. There's an uprising in the country. People that used to be quiet and sit in the corners and not say anything, they're starting to gather, and they're starting to be emboldened about saying some common sense ideas about faith in God, about being law-abiding citizen, about being good citizens.
And family.
And family, yeah, family, the whole thing, you know. So I am encouraged by that. Hopefully that continues, you know.
But you take the good, like what happened last evening, as a matter of fact, as we're on the air with this podcast, up at Montana State University in Bozeman, Montana. And when the college national finals was up there in Montana, that's where they held it, was inside the Brick Breeden Fieldhouse. It was jammed. It was jammed with thousands upon thousands and thousands of students and people that wanted to express that they are Christians, they're proud of it, they wanted to express their patriotism to the United States of America and to the moral ideals that this country was founded on. And I agree with you. It looks like the movement is growing, but the other side, the negative side, they seem to get all the press.
Yeah, that's a problem. But I think that's changing too, and I'll tell you why. And, you know, I take Fox News with a grain of salt. I take any news organization with a grain of salt. But every time I go to Fox News, I can see in their listings that they're beating out all of the other news organizations, I think, almost combined.
Yeah.
And yet, why does it feel like that frame of thought is in the minority? It's not. It's just that we're more quiet, we're more decent, we're more respectful, and we don't jump up and down and make a bunch of noise and burn stuff and cause problems.
You bring up a point, though, to discuss, John, and I appreciate that. We basically, and I say we, those that are conservative, those that believe in the United States of America, those of us that believe in family and morality and everything else, sure, we slip. All of us have holes in our screen door.
Oh, yeah.
But we've let this happen.
Yeah, we have. You're right, by our silence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do? Is it too late to change the way this bus is starting to go over a cliff?
No, well, financially, yes. I think the national debt is a done deal. It's going to consume us because there's no way out of that. But as far as being a moral nation and being respectful of people like that, I'm hopeful about that. I don't think that we're too far gone as far as that goes.
Can you imagine? Let's say you're about 15 years younger than I am. It bothers me every time I say that. But can you imagine back in John F. Kennedy's day?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
And I remember the circumstances around JFK's assassination in Dallas very, very well. I was a junior in high school. And the solemnity of what happened and the seriousness, and everybody was just absolutely walking around with a cold stare. It was so horrendous.
Yeah.
But can you imagine the attitude back in those days, the early 60s? If people were openly and blatantly offering illegal aliens in this country cash award bonuses of $10,000 to kill our federal ICE agents.
No, they would have thought they were in the Twilight Zone. Nothing like that. The whole thought process of everybody has changed, at least in my lifetime in the last 40 years. It's completely different than it was when I was in my 20s, you know.
But how are you going to clean up? And Deanna and I have given this a lot of thought, watching the news, reading the newspaper. And here are the citizens. Let's talk about Chicago just for a few moments, because I know Chicago very well. As a matter of fact, where I was born and raised in southern Wisconsin, we were a stone's throw away from the border, literally. Mm-hmm. And we used to go down a lot into Chicago on school trips, and we'd go to the Cubs games and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people that live back there. Mm-hmm. They don't want the chaos.
No.
They don't want the absolute turmoil and the shootings in their towns, their districts, etc. They don't want to see the numbers come out every weekend during the course of the year, especially in the summer. 37 shot this weekend, 5 died. They've had enough of this, and they're not being addressed as far as being taken care of.
Yeah. And not to change the city, but I just saw something this morning that Don Lemon was out.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Interviewing people in New York City.
Lemon's a good name. He makes everybody just pucker up, I'll tell you what, yeah.
Anyway, I'm sure he picked this black guy because of his color, and he was trying to get him to say, do you agree with what's going on here? And that black guy said, Get the illegal immigrants out of this country.
Amen.
I'm all for this. And did you vote for Trump? No, I didn't vote for Trump last time. But if he's going to do this and get these people out of here, I'm going to vote for him a third term. You know?
Well, what is the fascination with bringing or letting people into our country and providing them the amenities that we pay for? And they can sit back like fat cats, whether it's their homes, whether it's their medicine, whether it is their food, whether it is their children's education. You know, I worked pretty doggone hard to put my kids through school. I'm proud of that fact, but I certainly didn't get any help like I would if I were an illegal alien.
Yeah. Well, I always have the same question for anybody that thinks this invasion is okay. Would you be okay if 1 billion Chinese came into the country?
Amen.
I mean, I got nothing against Chinese people. They're wonderful people. But if you have that many people come in from a different society, your society is now theirs.
Well, if it's a Democratic mantra that they say they're not going to work with the Republicans on a budget, and they're trying to stop everything because the Republicans have said no to a $1.5 trillion addition of money for health care for illegal aliens, what does that tell you about our society? Just come on in, Juan, come on in, everybody. We'll pay the bill.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Is anybody paying your health?
Yeah. Well, I think I am.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
One of the people that I corresponded with during my Facebook era, which I haven't been on Facebook for 5 years because nobody wants to hear from a libertarian, but one of the things that they would always say is, America has a big table. Well, yeah, we have a big table because we got a ginormous credit card.
There you go.
And that's the only reason. So my thought is eliminate, well, there's a lot of things I'd eliminate, but at least eliminate welfare. And then if you want to come in the country and work, come on in. If you want to be a refugee and a private citizen wants to sponsor you as a refugee, you go live in their home. They get to help getting a job, acclimating to our society, not us to yours. I'm in favor of that. But if you want to take money out of my wallet and pay for somebody else to do that, or practically anything else, I am not in favor of that.
Well, and you and I, to be fair and transparent, we talked about this prior to going on the air, and I'll just use one subject matter because we are drawing close to a time frame. Medicaid. Medicaid has been thoroughly abused in this country by those that are absolutely abusers to the system.
Yeah.
They don't want to get a job. They don't want to work. They don't want to contribute. They want everything in a tin cup atmosphere. Gimme, gimme, gimme. And that's the problem with Medicaid today.
Yeah. Well, the whole welfare thing, when I used to deliver mail, I noticed two things. Once, most of the people that were receiving welfare, not all of them,
That's true.
most of them
That's absolutely true.
had no motivation. And the other thing that I noticed was their children, 2 and 3-year-old kids coming out to the mailbox, check, 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 check. They wanted that check in the mail because they're teaching their children to rely on the government. And those two things just drove me crazy when I was out delivering mail.
How are we going to change it? You know, we've talked about a multiplicity of subjects here this morning, the chaos and the turmoil and the crime and also the abuse of the funding, et cetera. Are we so far gone we can't get this thing back the way it should be?
Some things, yes, I think. I don't think anybody has really got the stomach to get to where we were when we didn't have welfare, when we didn't have an income tax, when we, back when people relied on each other, your friends, your family, your neighbors, to get stuff done. We've been taught generationally that we're supposed to rely on the government.
Right.
We have to teach our kids, our own kids. That's the only thing we can do. And our friends and family around us, we don't want to rely on the government. We want to rely on ourselves, and we'll take whatever steps are necessary to do that.
Yeah, but therein lies the problem, teach.
Yeah.
And that responds right back to the key word, education. And
Right
that's
into
what
the
our kids
schools.
are not getting
Yep.
in the schools.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Speaking of which, I want to touch on one of the subject. Pastor Alex has just called in. I just turned the switch on, and hopefully he is on the line, and we'll get to him in just a few moments. I want to talk to you about that Virginia candidate for Attorney General.
Oh,
And I'm not even going to give his full name because I find him so despicable.
Yeah.
I won't give him any credence. His last name is Day.
Yeah.
And to come out, even though it was 3 years ago, I don't think the leopard has changed his spots.
Yeah.
And to say that he wanted to kill one of his adversaries in politics, put 2 bullets in his head, and the worst part of this he actually talked about killing this man's children,
Yeah.
which at the time were 2 and 5 years of age, and called them little fascists that need to be dead.
Yeah.
You want that man to be a Virginia Attorney General?
I have to believe that there's just a handful of Democrats that support that, and silently there's a bunch of them going, "Why are you supporting this guy? You're hurting our party."
Yeah.
You
But
know?
where's the outcry to get him thrown out of this race?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. The Democrats themselves, the ones that are standing in the shadows, that are afraid to speak up because they got to walk in line with everybody else, they need to stand up and say, "We don't want this guy."
Yeah.
When the voice of reason is John Fetterman, Senator John Fetterman,
And quite frankly, he's been doing a fairly good job.
that scares me when he's the only voice of reason we got in the Democratic Party.
I totally agree.
know.
But we're in an age right now where words really have some meaning and some fear.
And power.
And power.
Yep.
And we've seen so many shootings.
Yep.
We've seen so many would-be shootings.
Yeah.
We've seen so many, we're going to get you, we're going to beat you up, we're going to maybe even shoot you attitudes. This is ridiculous to think that this man could still run for a public office, the Attorney General, and be basically the Solomon of what crimes are going to be tried and not?
Yeah, I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone when you talk about that. In the Mouth of Madness is a movie about one guy, everybody else is insane, but they think they're not, and he's not insane, but he's starting to wonder. That's how I feel when they're going to put somebody I can see him elected for the dog catcher maybe. I don't know. Maybe not.
No, I love dogs.
Yeah, okay.
No,
good point.
no.
But Attorney General in charge of the law?
Skunk Patrol.
Yes. Because they wouldn't be able to smell him.
This is despicable. I had so many things I wanted to mention to you this morning, but we're just a few minutes away from getting Alex on the phone with us. Would you help me, and we'll do a little solicitation here for people to get a hold of our program. I'll let you say it this time. All they have to do basically is go to zebbell.com.
Yeah, zebbell.com. Now, keep in mind that's two B's, Zebbell.
Right.
Zebbell.com.
Right.
And if you go there, you're going to see this broadcast right off the bat. The other thing you're going to see on the left of the website, and yes, it's an old website, but we're old, is a little place where
I'm old.
is a place where you can click, and it'll take you right to the contact page, ready to sign up for the newsletter. Zeb sends them out once a week, and you can see what's on his mind, and it's always events of the day, and it's pretty interesting, even from my point of view, because he's conservative, I'm not, but I still like to read what he has to say.
Did you ever consider how the origination of the cow pies and coffee cups came about?
I think you told me, and there's a picture of it.
And it's a true story.
Yeah.
True story.
Yeah.
My wife and I were up in the South Hills and back in there about 15, 20 miles. And when Deanna and I take off on a little four-wheeler tour, we always take with us a little stove, and we take along coffee and food to heat up and everything. We're way back up in the boonies. And we take some lawn chairs with us, too. I mean, we go up there loaded for bear, if you will.
Yeah.
And this one day in particular, I started the stove up, and I'm sitting there in a lawn chair waiting way back up in the pine trees. And she gave me a cup of coffee, and I set it on the ground, and I set it right next to a cow pie.
Yeah.
And for those in the audience that don't know what a cow pie is, it's recycled alfalfa. And I set it right next to that, and I thought, maybe that should be the title of my blog, Cow Pies and Coffee Cups.
And if you want to see what he's talking about, it's in the header of that, blog. Yeah,
and you've done a tremendous job with that. So that was the origination of Cow Pies and Coffee Cups.
Yep.
And like you said, all they have to do, again, is go to zebbell.com for everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
John, I'm going to go ahead, and with your permission, I'm going to hit the button. Is that all right?
Yep.
And so I'm going to hit number 3. And that means with my mechanical skills, technological skills, I'll be able to say good morning to the wandering traveler that I believe is still in East Texas, headed for Tennessee. Good afternoon to our dear friend, Pastor Alex Lissau. How are you?
I'm delightful as long as I'm not drinking a cup of coffee with you.
Just clean the bottom of your cup.
Okay.
Pastor,
Good practice.
Pastor Alex, I want to review everything as to where you are and why. You left last week, Southern Idaho, with everything in tow, and you went to El Paso, Texas, and now you are on the way to Tennessee. Tell us about your excursion so far, good, bad, or ugly, like a Clint Eastwood movie.
Well, it's been an interesting trip in the sense that pulling our Durango behind us in a little trailer has been a challenge in the fact that you can't go 75, 80 miles an hour and cover a lot of ground. You got to move along at about 55 to 60, and a lot of the highway, interestingly enough, especially in Texas, and since we entered Texas, it's been pretty much a lot of construction going on, which means that they've narrowed down the lanes. And it's been kind of a tight run. I've been bold enough pushing, but it's been a challenge. One of the great things is we got to stop in El Paso, where my daughter and her husband are now, and he's been there for a few months, a year, I guess, almost now, and is the pastor of a church there in El Paso. And we went to service with him on Sunday, which was a beautiful thing. And on the sideline, when I wasn't around, he was saying to Barbara, Dad hasn't said anything to me about how I did. And later on, and I hadn't talked to Barbara either, I sat down with him and I said, it was fantastic. His sermon was good. His service was good. The music was fantastic. And the service in general was great. The people love him there, and they think of him. And so far, the trip has been great.
Okay, great. Now, I want to ask you this, and John's going to chime in with us. We got a lot of questions for you this afternoon. I'd like to start this by your trip as a kind of a kickoff point. You're traveling through what is called the Bible Belt of our United States of America. And I'm sure, knowing how you like to visit with people, etc., what are people saying about the chaos and the crisis that's going on in America today? What are you hearing from people, whether it's Texas or on the way down through New Mexico, whatever? What are you hearing from people?
Well, it was interesting in that we attended a couple of different things while we were in El Paso, and there's some quite interesting individuals, people with former military background, retired military, general, in fact, as a member of the congregation, a couple of businessmen, not college graduates, guys that started out in their garages and became multimillionaires. They're part of the group, and we had some conversations and listened and talked about the things that are going on around us. And of course, these are businessmen that work hard to provide and build their businesses and provide jobs to many people. And they're frustrated with the state of the country. They're frustrated with the people who are in positions where they should be supporting and helping the President of the United States achieve great things for the benefit of mankind, for the people of the country, and instead they're fighting amongst each other over political nonsense, and they're trying to upmanship on each other, and the frustration is there amongst the people. One of the great things about these folks that have been successful is that they don't need to put up with the government because they have sufficient success that they don't need to do anything except live their own lives. And so they're very committed Christian people in the church. They're committed to having a group of people that are employed by them, and they're just fine folks. So from that standpoint, it's good to see that there's some strong individuals in the community. Also, there's a big military base there, 50,000 members of the Army there, and of those 50,000, there's several that are deployed that were not at the church, but their families are going there. And I did meet a young man who just recently retired, and again, committed, dedicated Americans that love being in Texas, because Texas is, even though liberal somewhat in the city, in the area of El Paso, still very strong in their ties and belief in the country.
Yeah, Texas is a great state, and I've always said if I didn't live in Idaho, I wouldn't mind living in Texas, the fact that they have their own power grid. But what's encouraging for me, Pastor, when you tell me this, is it's what I've suspected. When you talk to the average person, not necessarily on the West Coast or the East Coast, but the rest of the entire country, we have a good set of people with some common sense that are God-fearing, that are just normal, average people that understand the problems we're having are caused by the politicians, and we need to get those fixed.
Absolutely. But this is, in fact, as small as my congregation was in Burley, they were all people like that. And whenever I would go off script a little bit and throw in the issues of the day that create the problems for us, as I look at them as a sin and immoral conduct of the things, it is surprising to me how many people would stand up with me and cheer me on and say, yeah, Pastor, these are the things that we need to pursue. And most of these people also agree that we're not raising our children properly, because we wouldn't have all this anti-Semitism and the violence we're seeing now. And that really is a frustration. I was just looking at Psalm 11:8. The Lord tests the righteous, but his soul hates the wicked and the one who loves violence. So God has a problem with violence.
Yep.
And I think it is a serious, serious situation in our society today. We think we can solve violence with violence, and I don't think it's necessary. But that's what it evolves into, because that's the way war has always been in the world. That's the way two men arguing over a situation, one guy takes a punch at the other guy, generally the response is going to be a punch back or some other form of fisticuffs or combat. So we have a tendency as human beings to react, and violence will beget violence, and I think that's a real big problem in where we are today, because I think we have a whole large number of people who are upholding, and the things I'm reading and things I'm hearing is they're supporting and in fact encouraging violence.
Yeah.
This is really frustrating.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, and we've talked about this in the past, but I want to reiterate it again. I think it's very important. There, in my opinion, and tell me if I'm wrong, there seems to be a growing everyday anti-God atmosphere in this United States of America. And at the same time, there's this anti-God atmosphere that's growing on the left. There seems to be a huge resurgence with many, many young people, high school, college age, those that are out of college and starting their careers. And they're really leaning towards faith and respect and having families, etc. Case in point, last night up at Montana State University, there was a great big rally, and literally 6,000 to 7,000 people, maybe more, crammed themselves into the Brick Breeden Fieldhouse on Montana State University campus, and they were all in absolute support of conservative values, family values, and it seems like there's going to be, in the future, even more of a clash between these divisions in society. Would you agree?
I agree with you, Zeb, in the fact that there is a growing effort on the part of younger people who are people of faith, who have been brought up properly in their family, in their homes, who believe Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior, and who want very much to live a life of peace and joy and productivity and achievement and so on and so forth. But they see all the battles of conflict that are going on that create even problems that are taking them away from what their focus should be in their lives, and you recognize that. And it's good to hear the news of these young people that are coming up and growing, especially the situation that happened with Charlie Craig and the number of people that came aboard immediately after that to say, we're going to stick with this organization and we're going to do what we can to bring back faith and reliance on the Creator. And I think that is such a critical issue. We need to do that. And it was good this last Sunday for me to watch these young kids in the church that were carrying the cross and doing things like that. And it was a wonderful experience to see that going on. We do have families that are raising their children properly, but we need to reach those that are not. Those that are living off the mass media, those that are living off of video games, those that are living off of social programs and all the other garbage that's out there. You can't really watch much of anything in the television anymore, whether you watch regular network television or whether you watch your flow downs and the things that you draw in from the internet. Most of them are very, very, very immoral or have immoral tendencies to them. And so we've got to change that attitude, because we're brainwashing our kids in the wrong direction in our society. And I'm grateful for these young people that are coming up and are saying no more. We're going to step out and start affecting and dealing face to face with these people.
Well, you know, the one thing that American history, actually world history, has taught me is that God can send a revival at any time. And this assassination of Charlie Kirk, it looks to me like it almost is the impetus to create this same type of revival, because Zeb just described this event that happened and packed it probably better than a sporting event.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you know, it's a shame that that's what it takes, something like that.
Yeah.
To generate the motivation for people to change. And I think of my experiences in my own life, the most dramatic changes that I've ever seen were as a result of something enormously impacting. Most of the time, fortunately, in my experience, it was not death. But death did have its impact, obviously, in some of the experiences in my life. But many times, you know, when somebody is pushing the wrong buttons, somebody that pushes the right buttons needs to step up and say, okay, that's it. I'm challenging you. We're going to change this.
Yep.
We're going to change the situation. I've been really interested here. Zeb asked me about traveling, and we're traveling across the country. And almost everywhere I stop, and Zeb, I'm wearing my green camouflage marine hat, my favorite hat everywhere we are. And people open the doors for us. People say, thank you for your service. One of the great things about Texas is really polite, wonderful, friendly people.
Yeah.
And I think we need to generate that in our rest of our society. You know, you may not have the same attitude, the same opinion, and the same lifestyle as anybody else, but at least live with one another.
Yeah.
I want to go into the political aspects of the chaos and the crisis that we're living in, Pastor Alex, and John's going to chime in too. But when you look at where we are currently, and one side of the aisle, and I'm going to be very blunt, the Democratic Party doesn't seem to have a moral compass anymore for really what is right and wrong and for the betterment of the American people. And you've got a supposed nominee for Attorney General in the state of Virginia that they found the text messages to where he wanted to kill his opponent. He wanted to kill his opponent's children. He called them little fascists, etc. That man has no business running for a public office, and that to me sets the tone for the problems that are in America today. What's the matter with the mindset of these politicians?
Yeah.
You know, Zeb, I'm almost 80 years old. And in 80 years, this is the worst I've ever seen in terms of the character and personality of the kind of people that occupy positions in the federal government, elected positions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It frustrates me to no end that these people are being elected, let alone serve, and they're not serving. I mean, the shift and all these, we've got liars and
Right.
and thieves and cheats, people that are playing games with the stock market to become wealthy.
Yep.
You go into Congress as an average income earner, and you walk out a millionaire. These are things that these people have become the elite of society that thumbs their nose at the rest of us people who depend on them to provide us with a nation that provides us opportunity for our growth and individuals' successes for families. The moral character of people assuming positions of responsibility and leadership is devastatingly horrible. Charlie Kirk was a guy that stepped forward and had not only personality and character, but he also had a leadership capability. I see that in J.D. Vance as well. In fact, I see that also and we've mocked and made a mockery of our President Trump. But when you take off all of the showmanship that he has and you just get to his heart, the guy is a man of character and discipline, and he wants to see success of this country. And he's even stood up and said that God has saved me that I might help save this country.
Yeah, I see it. Sorry, Pastor.
Go ahead.
I see a complete change in President Trump from his first term to his second term. He's never been my favorite president. I make no bones about that. But the one thing I like about him is he doesn't hide his words. He just says what he means. I don't have to guess what he's saying. And I think after that assassination attempt that was had on him, I believe that was a life-changing event for him. And because of that, He's sought to lead our country in a moral, God-loving, Christ-loving way, a God-fearing way, and I really appreciate that.
And I'm grateful that he's been surrounded by people of faith. And it doesn't make any difference to me what denomination
Yep.
or what historical background they're from. I mean, I was born into a family as a child of a family that our religious faith goes back to the very first century, the Greeks, and when they were first, the missionary work was done by Paul the Apostle, and those kinds of things, and so to watch some of these older traditional historical, these people come out who have always been reverent and deeply committed to the faith. And it's good to see some of these young people that are coming up with this kind of thing in terms of standing up and saying, God bless America, and they're willing to fight for that right.
Well, Pastor, you and I have been friends for a long, long time, and I think you'll agree with me that in the last 20 years, there has been a shovel in the hands of the liberals and the Democrats, and they're using that shovel to dig a big hole, and they want to bury the facts that this country was founded upon Judeo-Christian principles, and that our forefathers bent their knees and prayed for guidance to get this country started and off the ground as a United States of America. And now they're throwing all these principles and values into this hole and trying to cover it up. And I'm really afraid that they're gaining enough steam right now that as conservatives, if we don't fight back and stand firm, we're going to lose the values this country was founded on.
Well, I agree with you, and I couldn't say it any better, Zeb. I think that is a fear that we all need to be cognizant of and prepared for. This is, and again, I'm not advocating violence, but this is a battle. We are in a battle for the rights and privileges and gifts of God that are given to each and every person who upholds our faith, who looks to God for guidance and preparing the way. I mean, my prayer always is, Lord, you lead me, because I'm not worthy of leading myself. I just get myself in trouble. And living our lives to his way, what he calls us to, and you get that through the Word of God, the Bible itself. That's what strengthens you as an individual to be able to say, I can sustain myself. I can survive this thing. There is a joy in me, as bad as things are sometimes that I see in the news or read or people complain to me about. I'm still able to find the joy inside me for the gifts that God has given and the blessings. There's a peace that overcomes you in the midst of the turmoil that only comes from the power of God's Holy Spirit working in you.
You know what? It's funny you mentioned that, because I give thanks to God every time I turn on the hot water and take a shower. And I know that seems trivial, but we really have got blessings.
That's right.
We're a blessed nation, and we're getting to the point where a lot of us aren't understanding it. But I think maybe we're on the verge of a revival, and we're going to start seeing what we have and start understanding it and being appreciative of it.
One thing I wanted to mention, along with what John just said, appreciation, Pastor Alex, is, and I know that, again, you and I have talked about this off the program and private telephone calls, but now congregations and members of various churches, when they walk in the church and close the door and sit in a pew, they've got to be afraid for their lives with the attacks on the churches. And there doesn't seem to be a concentrated effort on behalf of the leadership of our country, government, etc., to try to protect people and different denominations.
Well, that's true, and that's why many churches today actually are taking this effort into their own hands. And I'm not, I don't want to give away too much, but I have served the last 10 years that I have served. I've had people who carry. They call it carry. What they mean is they have a pistol in their pocket or on their hip, and they have them, and they do it specifically with the rest of the congregation understanding what's going on. They're there. We've installed cameras at the entrance doors, because once the service starts and everybody's inside the sanctuary itself, nobody's really watching the back door or the side doors or anything like that. So, and this evolved as a result of the shootings that have occurred, the killings that have occurred indiscriminately. Some, obviously, there was a problem within the congregation, the individual that came back and perpetrated the evil. But on the other hand, some people, like we've seen in Nashville and other places, are walking into the churches or walking into schools and those kinds of things, and it's to whom it may concern, and they're ready to do that damage just because they have something going on screwy in their brain. And so, yeah, I think we have to be protective. It's necessary for us to protect our congregations. We don't have people armed because we want to create a problem. We have people armed because we want to save people from the problem.
Yeah, I don't think God would ever condemn us for trying to protect our congregation. And I have several firearms. I've never used them to shoot anybody with. I'm going to live my entire life and die without shooting anybody with them. But I will not hesitate to protect my family. And the other thing I wanted to say is the other day I was in Smith's doing some shopping with my wife, and we were kind of following behind a guy. He'd gotten in front of us. You know how you go back and forth in the aisles, and he was openly carrying a pistol. I have never felt more safe in my life.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He wasn't afraid. He wasn't trying to hide it. It was right there for everybody to see. And I think that's a great thing when it creates a polite society, in my opinion.
Some people, even here in Texas, for example, based on information that I've gathered from the past, where teachers are actually armed because of the things that they've experienced in places here in Texas, where the teachers will be armed, and of course they have them in a way that nobody sees them because the way they put them where they put them. But at the same time, they're going to protect their kids.
Yep.
And God bless them for that.
Yep.
I would hold them up and give them honor for that.
Yep.
Pastor, before we run out of time, I want you to talk about one other subject, because yesterday was the remembrance of what happened over on October 7th with the inhumanity of Hamas terrorist killers coming into Israeli projects and also a music fest and literally murdering over 1,200 and kidnapping 251 hostages. It's still not over. The hostages, whether they are dead or alive, have still not been returned to their families. And this kind of a situation, we're honoring on college campuses, many college campuses, the terrorist movement of Hamas, while our Israeli friends and neighbors are suffering from what happened on October 7th. Would you give us your remarks on that, please?
What evil can do is unfathomable. And it's interesting because Genesis talks to this. In Genesis chapter 9, it says, "And for your lifeblood I will require a reckoning from the beast and from man. Whoever sheds the blood of a man, by man shall have his blood shed. For God made man in his own image." God created people not to be murdering each other and killing each other off. God created people to love and to share and to build up and to create a society of people who work together for the glory of God and for the benefit of their own lives.
Yep.
And it's a horrific thing that what they did on October 7th, 2 years ago. It was to murder children, or to murder parents in front of children, to burn babies, infants, to burn them and slaughter them, rape the women in front of their husbands, to kill their fathers in front of their wives. Most of my life, Zeb, and you know this because we know each other, I've been involved, I've been a combative personality. I was, football, wrestling, all those kinds of things, and Marine Corps, undefeated hand-to-hand combat. I was in Taekwondo and karate. For some reason, I always kind of floated toward those things because they were something that generated an excitement in me. So I have a tendency to feel in my heart that when somebody is going to threaten somebody else, I'm going to defend those people that are being threatened if I can. Do what I can do to do. And it's so important in how anybody in our world today, anybody, I don't care if here in the United States or anywhere else in the Middle East or anywhere else, could possibly give credibility to the Palestinians, to those who did the damage and murdered people and still have some prisoners. I don't understand that at all, other than they will get their just desserts because God will make sure that they suffer.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now, whatever Hamas is doing, it's not based on religion.
That's right.
It's pure evil. I don't care what your point. If you want to be a Muslim and worship whatever, I don't care. That's fine. But if you're taking innocent children and families and massacring them, that is not religion.
Absolutely.
And just the other day, I was listening to a radio talk show host. I'll leave his name out, speaking to a former NBA athlete who tried to defend the Islamic focus on the way that they do things, saying that, and trying to defend those who have created and perpetrated the evil is, to me, unjust. But at the same time, I think the reality is this. There are many, many Middle Eastern people who don't want to have violence. They want to live their life.
That's
Amen.
true.
Yep.
It's like the rest of us. And what we need to do is embrace those people and bring them together so that we can all stand together. You go ahead. If you want to be on a prayer rug and that's your thing and you want it 5 times a day, God bless you.
Yep.
Enjoy it. But when I'm doing my thing,
Yep.
I want you to respect it as well. And then when it's time, because whether it's an onslaught from outside the country or it's coming down upon us from nature or whatever it might be, God help us that we would stand up together
Absolutely.
and fight as one people of God.
You know, Pastor Alex, we conferred with each other prior to going on the air this afternoon, and our dear friend Andrew Caldas up in Calgary, Alberta, is listening right now, I'm sure. And
he didn't call us. His name is Caldas.
Yeah, called us. That's cute. I like that. But we've talked about you at the end of this segment giving a prayer for our nation. And I'd like to have this be a prayer that we give every single week at the end of this segment. So I'm going to turn it over to you, if you would, please, to wrap it up.
Beloved Father and God, there are so many things, Lord, that we can be so concerned about and frustrated over. Things that cause fear and frighten children and families and provide difficulties for us in this life. And yet the one thing that you promise each and every one of us is that if we love you and we care about what you teach us and do those things which you call us to, Lord, that you will be with us through all of it. I am with you to the end of time, he said. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your might. Love your neighbor as yourself. You give us these commands because you expect us to do exactly as you tell us. We know all things work together for good to those who love God and are called according to his purpose, Romans 8:28 tells us. And again, it is the purpose of God that we serve one another in love and compassion and understanding. And despite all that we see, Lord, your hand is the hand of justice. Let it be the one that solves this problem. Let the remnant that you have in this nation in this time stand up boldly and declare your glory for the benefit of all mankind. And I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Pastor Alex, I appreciate your time and your effort, especially now that he's on the road traveling. And next week we'll be all settled in and we'll be able to see your face live on our screen. God bless you for Why Not God, the segment with Pastor Alex Lissau. Have a safe trip, my dear friend.
Thank you, and God bless you guys too. God love you. I love you guys.
Thank you very much. Wow, John, that was an interesting segment. Why Not God? It gets better every week, I think.
Yeah, I do like Alex. He's a pretty cool guy.
He is a cool guy. We're at the end.
Yep.
We're at the end. We've had an outstanding program today. I certainly hope our audience liked it. And tune in again next week, Wednesday at 1 p.m. ZebBell.com. And this is Zeb at the Ranch program. And like I said, if you want to send us anything on an email, ZebAtTheRanch@hotmail.com. And if you want to get signed up for our Cow Pies and Coffee Cups blog, again, go to ZebBell.com. John, thank you. You are outstanding engineer, co-host. I really appreciate all your effort. And we'll look forward to next week's program.
All right. Sounds good, Zeb.
All right, buddy.